enlightenment. He wandered everywhere, seeking the truth in the midst of the impermanent world. One day, when he was exhausted and in despair, he stopped under an ancient tree. In that moment of silence, he suddenly realized peace does not come from the outside world, but lies within the mind itself. Today, we will reflect together on the Buddhist philosophies that can help us find peace amidst a world full of turbulence. We are living in a world full of changes, where people constantly search for happiness and peace. But have you ever asked yourself, where does peace truly lie? Is it in a quiet home, a stable job, or a life free of worries? For many people, peace seems to be something distant, only appearing when all difficulties disappear. But Buddhist teachings tell us that peace does not lie in external circumstances, but in how we face everything that happens in life. Think about the times when you felt the most peaceful. Was it when you were with family, when you didn't have to worry about work, or when you had enough material wealth? But why is it that some people, despite having everything, still feel empty, while others who have little are always filled with contentment? The answer lies in our own mindset. In the teachings of the Buddha, he always reminds us that peace does not come from avoiding suffering or seeking perfection, but from understanding the impermanent nature of life. When we accept that everything changes, we will no longer be disturbed by external factors. And when our mind is steady, even in the face of storms, we can still maintain inner peace. Let us embark on a journey to explore the profound philosophies of Buddhism, to better understand where true peace lies, how to face adversity, and most importantly, how to let go of the things that prevent our hearts from being light. Have you ever wondered where true peace lies? Is it a life free of worries, without challenges? Or is peace a small house nestled in the mountains, away from the noise of the city? Many people believe that to attain peace, one must avoid the troubles of life and escape from the busy world. But in reality, the Buddha taught us, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. Peace is not the absence of difficulties, but the ability to maintain a steady mind amidst the storms of life. Just like a calm lake, when the water is clear and undisturbed, it can reflect the entire sky. But when the wind blows, the water becomes turbulent and everything appears distorted. Our minds are the same. If we allow external circumstances to control us, we will lose sight of the truth and no longer feel the inner stillness. So, how can we find peace in a world full of turbulence? The answer lies within each of us. Peace does not come from controlling everything around us, but from mastering our own minds. If we constantly expect things to go our way, we will only meet disappointment. But when we accept whatever is happening, whether good or bad, we will find a sense of relief. Think of a person rowing a boat on the river. If he tries to fight against the current, rowing upstream to control everything, he will quickly become exhausted and get nowhere. But if he lets go, adjusting his paddle to flow with the current, he will reach his destination much more easily. Life is the same. When we stop fighting with things we cannot change, we will feel lighter. Another way to find peace is by letting go of negative thoughts. We often get stuck in worries about the past or the future. We dwell on past mistakes or worry about things that haven't happened yet. But this only creates more unrest in our hearts. If we keep living in the past or the future, we will miss the present moment, the only moment that truly exists. Like a flowing stream, when we let everything pass naturally, we are no longer trapped in the painful emotions. We cannot change what has already passed, nor can we predict what will come. But we can master the present moment, enjoying every breath, every step, and every small moment of life. Peace also comes from gratitude. When we appreciate what we already have, instead of constantly chasing after what we haven't attained, we feel content. The Buddha once taught, the richest person is not the one with the most possessions, but the one who knows enough. If we always think we lack something, we will never feel happiness. But when we realize that every meal, every smile, every moment spent with loved ones is a gift, we will feel more at peace. Finally, remember that peace is not a place, but a state of mind. We don't need to look for peace far away, because it's always within us. When we learn to let go, to accept, and to appreciate the present, peace will naturally emerge. And when our minds are at peace, the world around us will also become lighter. Peace is not something we go out and search for, but something we create within our hearts. When we understand this, we will no longer worry about what has not yet come, nor regret what is gone. We simply live in each moment with a peaceful heart. Part 2. Impermanence and Adversity. Buddhism teaches that impermanence is the fundamental nature of all things in the universe. Everything is in a constant state of change. Nothing remains eternal. This truth can sometimes make us feel uneasy, especially when the things we cherish, the people we love, or the dreams we hold dear suddenly change or disappear. But paradoxically, impermanence is also the source of freedom and happiness. When we truly understand it, we no longer cling to things that are fleeting, to moments that are destined to pass. We have all faced hardships in life, perhaps the loss of a loved one, the failure of a career, or the breakdown of a cherished relationship. When confronted with adversity, many of us feel lost, hopeless, or even lose faith in life itself. But from a Buddhist perspective, adversity is not merely suffering. It is an opportunity to learn and grow. The Buddha taught, suffering is an inseparable part of life. But if we learn to embrace it, suffering becomes the path to enlightenment. There is an old story about a king who once lived in prosperity and abundance. But one day, he lost his entire kingdom in a devastating war, and everything he had built crumbled before his eyes. In his despair, he sought out a renowned Buddhist master, hoping for guidance to overcome his suffering. The master simply told him, "Everything in this world changes. Happiness and sorrow alike. Nothing lasts forever." At first, the king could not comprehend these words. The pain in his heart was too overwhelming. But as time passed, living in the solitude of the mountains, he came to realize that his downfall was not the end. It was merely another chapter in the ever-changing book of life. When he finally embraced the nature of impermanence, peace returned to his heart, regardless of external circumstances. Indeed, impermanence is not something to fear. It is the very essence of life. Everything in existence, from the trees and flowers to our own thoughts and emotions, follows a natural cycle of birth, existence, and dissolution. Though change may sometimes bring pain, it is also the driving force that allows us to live each moment fully, knowing that each moment is precious. And when we accept this truth, we no longer fear the inevitable challenges of life. There is a well-known Buddhist saying, "All things are like clouds and water. Clouds may gather and disperse, but once they dissolve, they are no longer clouds." Likewise, the things we hold on to, no matter how beautiful, are merely passing phenomena. The moment we realize that everything is temporary, we free ourselves from the burdens of fear and anxiety. So, how do we find peace amid adversity? First, we must remember that nothing is permanent. Whatever pain we endure today will also pass, just as the rain eventually gives way to spring. Each time we face hardship, let us remind ourselves, "This too shall pass." This simple phrase, often taught by the Buddha, can help us remain steady in all circumstances. When we understand that suffering is only temporary, it loses its power to control us. This does not mean we ignore our pain or suppress our emotions. Rather, we acknowledge them as part of life's natural flow. Like autumn giving way to winter, every challenge we face carries its own lesson. Each hardship, each obstacle is an opportunity to master our thoughts and emotions. And often, it is in these difficult moments that we uncover our greatest inner strength, realizing that we are far more resilient than we ever imagined. Perhaps you, too, have endured deep wounds, loss, betrayal, heartbreak. But looking back, you may realize that those very experiences shaped you into the person you are today, making you wiser, stronger, and more compassionate. Impermanence is not only about the changes in the world around us, it is also about the transformation within ourselves. These changes are opportunities to expand our hearts, to love more deeply, and to embrace each moment with gratitude. So, the next time adversity comes knocking, do not see it as a roadblock. See it as an invitation to let go, to live authentically, and to discover the peace that exists even in the midst of life's storms. Part 3. Letting Go, the Art of Living Happily. We often believe that happiness comes from having everything we desire. We strive to hold on to what we cherish, our relationships, our careers, our possessions, even our emotions. But the truth is, happiness does not come from possession. It comes from the ability to let go. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means freeing ourselves from attachment. This is the art of happiness that the Buddha taught. To understand this concept better, let's consider a simple analogy. Imagine holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster the grains slip through your fingers. The more we try to hold on, the more we risk losing what is most precious to us. As the Buddha once said, all attachment is the root of suffering. At some point in our lives, we have all felt regret over the past, fear of the future, or anguish over things beyond our control. A broken relationship, a lost job, a failure that weighs on our hearts. These moments can bring pain and turmoil. But when we learn to let go, we free ourselves from their grip. Letting go means accepting that everything, good or bad, is temporary and that none of it defines who we truly are. In Buddhism, letting go is not an act of passivity or indifference. It is the liberation of the mind from the chains of attachment. True freedom comes when we are no longer controlled by external conditions. When we stop clinging to things that are fleeting, we discover a profound peace within ourselves. As the Buddha beautifully expressed, abandon what is not yours, and your heart will be free. But letting go is not easy. We all have things we hold dear, things we fear losing. That is why it takes practice, patience, and deep understanding. One of the most essential lessons in Buddhism is the realization that everything is impermanent. Everything in life follows a cycle of birth and dissolution. When we understand this, we no longer fear loss. We accept it as an inevitable part of existence. We cannot grasp onto what is already past, nor can we control what is yet to come. So how do we practice letting go in daily life? One of the simplest ways is to fully embrace the present moment. Instead of dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, we focus entirely on the now. In our busy lives, we are often swept away by stress, anxiety, and expectations. But if we learn to pause, take a deep breath, and truly experience each moment, we will realize that peace is not something distant. It is already within us. There is a well-known Buddhist story about a Zen master who taught his disciple a lesson in letting go. One day, he gave the disciple a task to carry a full jar of water back to the temple. However, along the journey, the jar broke. The disciple was filled with anxiety, fearing punishment for failing his duty. But when he returned, the Zen master simply smiled and said, "If you let go of the burden in your heart, you will find peace." The broken jar is not the problem. It is your attachment and fear that weigh you down. This story reminds us that the real problem in life is not the obstacles we face, but how we react to them. If we refuse to let go of our fears, anxieties, and need for control, we will never experience true happiness. But when we release our attachments, we open ourselves to inner freedom and joy. Letting go is also an art in relationships. Often, we try to control those around us, expecting them to change to meet our desires. But when we realize that each person has their own path, and that no one can change unless they choose to, we learn to accept them as they are. Releasing expectations and embracing differences is the key to maintaining healthy and harmonious relationships. Finally, letting go does not mean abandoning responsibility or becoming indifferent to life. It means pausing, seeing things clearly, and acting from a place free of fear and greed. When we truly master the art of letting go, we are no longer trapped by negative emotions. Instead, we live with a light heart, embracing each day with peace and freedom. Remember, happiness is not found in holding on. It is found in knowing when to let go. Part 4. Applying Buddhist philosophy to daily life. Buddhist philosophy is not something distant or abstract. It is a way of life that can be applied to our daily existence. In today's fast-paced and stressful world, finding a path to peace and happiness may seem more difficult than ever. Yet, the teachings of the Buddha remain a guiding light, helping us navigate challenges and discover tranquility, even in moments of hardship. In an ever-changing society, each of us faces unique struggles, whether in our careers, family life, or personal relationships. But instead of becoming consumed by negative emotions, Buddhism offers a different approach. It teaches us to observe difficulties with calmness and clarity. One of the most fundamental principles the Buddha taught is, live in the present moment. When we stop letting our minds wander between past regrets and future anxieties, we begin to find peace within ourselves. Imagine a typical workday. Deadlines are piling up, projects keep changing unexpectedly, and your colleagues seem uncooperative. In these moments, instead of reacting with frustration, you can practice the principle of living in the present. Take a moment to breathe deeply, relax, and shift your perspective. The Buddha taught that when we are truly present, we are no longer controlled by worries about the past or uncertainties about the future. Instead, we gain the clarity needed to make wise decisions. So how do we integrate this principle into our daily lives? It begins with awareness, learning to recognize and master our thoughts. Often, we don't realize how our minds lead us into cycles of stress and worry. But if we observe our thoughts without judgment and practice letting go of unnecessary concerns, we will feel lighter. Once we take control of our thoughts, our problems begin to feel less overwhelming. When faced with professional difficulties, Buddhism teaches us that instead of blaming others or feeling frustrated, we can shift our perspective. A powerful question to ask ourselves is, what lesson is this challenge teaching me? Every hardship contains a hidden lesson, and once we recognize this, we stop seeing difficulties as obstacles and start seeing them as opportunities for growth. The Buddha once said, if one cannot find happiness in the past or future, they will find it in the small joys of the present moment. Buddhist philosophy is also invaluable in our relationships with family, friends, and society. When dealing with complex relationships, we often feel exhausted, hurt, or emotionally unbalanced. But Buddhism teaches us that every person has their own journey, and we cannot change others. Only they can change themselves. When we truly understand this, we stop expecting people to be different and instead learn to accept and love them as they are. This shift in perspective frees us from disappointment and allows us to cultivate unconditional love. There is a Buddhist story where a master tells his disciple, do not only love those who are easy to love those who challenge you, for they are your greatest teachers in patience and compassion. This philosophy shifts the way we see relationships, not as transactions where we expect something in return, but as opportunities to offer love and understanding, no matter the circumstances. Applying Buddhist wisdom can also help us navigate challenges in romantic relationships. Instead of trying to control, change, or possess others, we can learn to love freely, without expectations. When we stop clinging to people, stop letting relationships define our sense of security, we release fear and anxiety about the future. Only then can we fully enjoy and appreciate each moment we spend with them. Finally, one of the most profound lessons in Buddhism is the power of forgiveness. In life, we have all been hurt by others, but instead of holding on to anger, resentment, or sorrow, the Buddha taught us to forgive. Forgiveness is not about excusing someone's actions. It is about setting ourselves free from the burden of negative emotions. It is a gift we give to ourselves, a key to inner peace and liberation. When we integrate Buddhist wisdom into our daily lives, we no longer allow stress, worries, or negative emotions to control us. Instead, we cultivate a mind that is calm, clear, and joyful. Because ultimately, happiness is not something we chase outside of ourselves. It is the peace we nurture within. When we understand and embody the Buddhist teachings, we discover serenity and fulfillment in the present moment. Conclusion: life does not always go smoothly, but it is through challenges that we have the opportunity to grow and learn. Happiness is not a destination, it is a journey. Every moment in life, whether filled with joy or sorrow, is a chance for us to experience, to understand ourselves, and to see the world more clearly. It is impermanence, the ever-changing nature of life, that gives existence its beauty and depth. Together, we have reflected on the profound teachings of the Buddha, from finding inner peace, understanding impermanence, and mastering the art of letting go, to applying Buddhist wisdom in our daily lives. These are not distant, abstract concepts. They are values we can embrace in the present moment. We can learn to live fully with what we have and discover peace in each passing second. When we stop searching for happiness elsewhere and realize that true happiness comes from within, from how we perceive and embrace life, everything around us becomes lighter and peace naturally follows. So instead of worrying, grieving, or fearing the uncertainties ahead, let us remember, everything will pass. We can overcome any challenge when we learn to live mindfully, to accept, and to forgive. Never forget, happiness is not something distant or unattainable. It is something that already exists within us, waiting to be recognized in the way we approach life. I wish you peace and happiness in every step of your journey. And if you found these reflections meaningful, do not hesitate to share this positive energy with those around you. Together, we can create a world filled with love and serenity. Until we meet again, take care and be well.